Here comes the boy. Hello, boy.
Hey YouTube.
Why are we still here?
Hey guys, I'm sorry about not uploading stuff on a consistent basis. I know I've been pretty bad about that. There's a variety of reasons, but one of them is just because I don't really know exactly what to do with this channel at this point. It's always been a way for me just to sort of share stuff that I like, interests with you all, video games that I really enjoy and like to play. It's sort of a creative outlet for me, a way to really, express myself with everybody, a way to share who I am since I'm not really super into social media and all that. So I thought I'd do something a little bit different today and share a few things from my collection. I want this to sort of be a series where I just sort of talk about things that I own, things that I like that aren't necessarily gameplay videos or meme videos or stuff like that. And hopefully, as I go over the history and details about how and why I acquired some of these different things and exactly why I find them so interesting and so cool enough to own them as like objects in a collection, I just wanted to say thank you for sticking around. You guys really do make my day better whenever I see your comments or when I see that a video has more likes than I usually see. It really does help me and boost my confidence and all. I really appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around after me not uploading for months. It really means a lot. So let's go ahead and get into the video. To start out with, we're going to be talking about the Shin Megami Tensei 1-coin figure series. Hope you guys like it. The Shin Megami Tensei 1-coin figure series set of figures. Where do we even begin with something like this? I mean, it's probably some of the coolest SMT related merch out there because it focused on so many of the demons that you wouldn't normally expect it to. Like, obviously, as you can see here, we've got King Frost featured on the cover, and this is from, I believe, series 3 or 4, but once we start getting into it, you'll see that it includes a variety of demons that we haven't really seen focused on in any type of merch in quite a while. This set of figures came out in 2005, 2006, around the time when Nocturne was still in its fairly big popularity phase. And so it's a bit reflected in that and sort of what's focused on in some of these figures, but others aren't. So let's take a look at this box and see what we got here. So these figures were made by Kotobukiya. You can see here that the price was about I believe that's 525 yen, which is about $4 in today's money. But I paid a whole lot more than $4 for the ones that I got, and I suppose that's fair. They've been out of print for quite a long time, and overseas shipping is pretty expensive. But as you can see here in this series of figures, you can see that it included Cerberus, I believe that's Hanamon, Lamia. The secret figure in this series was Yoshitsune, so, I mean, they're trying to hide him, but clearly it's Yoshitsune. And then also the other figures in the series were Pravarti, King Frost, and Raphael. Here they all are, arranged pretty nicely in a big group photo, so you can sort of see what they would all look like together. Very, very cool. Alright, now most of these figures that I own are loose, so they don't really have their boxes anymore, but because Raphael here came in his box, the one that I showed you guys earlier, I wanted to start with him first. Now, the first thing you'll notice probably is that, wow, this looks really, really close to Kazuma Kaneko's art, and you'd be right. I have a feeling that they used his art as a basis and were like, you know what, let's take these art designs and make them really cool 3D figures. And you can see here that for $4, there is some high quality going on here. The painting is immaculate. You've got this really nice effect with the wind on the bottom where it looks like Raphael here is kind of like floating in the air. This robe piece here actually is a separate piece that you have to kind of fit in between the wind funnels here. And yeah, it's just a awesome figure. I really like it. And going forward, each of these figures is going to come with this little nameplate as well that has their name in Japanese and English here at the bottom as well. Although here for Raphael, it looks like it's spelled Raphael, so maybe a little bit of a typo, I don't know, but very cool. All right, next up here we have Gabriel, and another absolutely beautiful figure. You can see here that it's also copying the art style and how it's presented, and I really like this effect of her walking on what it looks like water. They did a really good job. You've got the lily here. This is a separate hand piece with the hand sculpted to the flower. The sword is its own separate piece so that you have to sort of fit into the fingers, and of course the wings are separate pieces as well, just like with Raphael. Very lovely figure. I really enjoy the colors in especially the golden armor, and then of course her beautiful dress. That's always like one of her most striking standout features that you can see. Very cool. Continuing the trend of looking at the archangels, next up is Uriel, and this was actually the first figure that I got for my birthday a while back. Very cool figure. He's part of the first line of the one-coin figures. Unfortunately, when I got him, he was definitely the most in used condition, as you can see here. If I zoom in here onto his chest, you can see that there's some sort of a bit of a discoloration in terms of the white there being a little bit red. And I do have a few photos from when I first got him. You can see that his leg is almost completely, it is completely uncolored almost, and some of the armor just was not colored, and I think that might be either due to sun damage or maybe just because they didn't really do a good job painting the figure. So there is a chance that if you do end up, like me, getting some of these figures, that the quality of the paint may not be consistent across, even though Raphael and Gabriel were absolutely immaculate. Uriel here, unfortunately, maybe just because he was part of the first series, had some issues. So I had to go in and do some minor touch-ups. So because he's sort of a project that I worked on, it may not look as good as some of the others, but I still think he's an absolutely awesome figure. His sword is a separate piece fused to his hand, so you have to kind of take his hand off to mess with that. And of course, his wings are separate pieces, and he sticks into his base here. But he's still probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite, out of all the figures that I own, just because I love the heralds so much, and Uriel is my favorite out of the four. So very cool. Going forward, all of these figures are ones that I haven't shown you guys before. I did show off Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel in a community post earlier where I was showing off how excited I was to get them, and I did hint that Michael was coming, so here he is as promised, and oh boy, does he live up to expectations. Again, this came from, I believe, the third or maybe second wave of figures, if I remember correctly, but again, absolutely perfect representation of the Cosmic Conoco art. I believe this is from his SMT1 art. He's doing the whole pose where he's got his spear in the front, which is a separate piece. And of course, just like the other heralds, his wings are separate pieces as well, and he sticks into his base. So a lot of these figures come split into their separate parts, and you pre-assemble them. And some of them have more parts than others, which is really interesting, as you'll see when we get to some of the other figures that I have to show you. But because I had a lot of trouble finding Michael by himself, I had to make a decision, and I caved and I decided to get his wave, because if you look at a lot of online sellers, they're usually selling these types of figures for quite a bit compared to how much they were when they released, but usually as a set, because the way you'd want is, hey, these are from blind boxes essentially. If you want one, you probably want the other, so you're not just gonna get blind boxes, you want stuff that's in them. So people have already gone through the effort of getting a bunch of these boxes, opening them, and figuring out, oh, this is this figure, this is this one, and now I have the whole set. So it was really hard to find Michael by himself, even though some other people are selling individual figures by themselves, so I ended up having to get him as part of his set. So I'll be showing off the rest of his wave that he came with, but honestly, I think it was pretty worth it. Just look at all the details there. Absolutely perfect. I couldn't be happier. And just because I'm biased, here's all 4 of them in the set together, and my goodness, they just look absolutely perfect together. They look exactly like they do in their art. And it's a real shame that we don't have more merchandise featuring them, because honestly, if they ever decide, if Shop Atlas randomly decides to release like plushies of any of these demons, or demons in general, instead of like their usual suspects, then I'll be all over that in a heartbeat. I really enjoy the Heralds and how they all sort of capture this theme of being a knight, and while also being unique in that they each have their own color scheme that just meshes well together. I really enjoy that. Okay, the next figure I want to show you guys is Varna, or as you probably know him better, Surf, the protagonist from Digital Devil Saga. And yeah, no, it's a great figure. I'm really surprised that they actually took time to make him, because I feel like the demons forms of the protagonists and different characters in the Digital Devil Saga game just feel like they belong there. It's sort of like how you don't see Atlas really making figures of the different personas of the different characters in the Persona games. They sort of have them sit on their own and be their own thing, and it's only really the recurring demons that you see that show up in multiple games that sort of get the focus, or the human characters themselves. So I was pleasantly surprised when I saw that Varna was part of this set, and he just looks absolutely great. Like the lining here on the feet, the bony structures, the flat head, the way that these separate spike pieces sort of fit into these little grooves in between the hands, I thought was really, really cool. And yeah. Now, of course, because these figures are non-articulate, you can't really do a whole lot with them, and I kind of wish, because of the way he's posed, it's not really emulating the art style like the Heralds that I showed you earlier were, so you can't really get a good look at his face. But still, I'm pleasantly surprised that they gave Varna a figure, and very happy with how it turned out. It looks really good. Alright, next up we have here is Ganesha, and for those of you that have played SMT5, you'll know that he is your best friend, because he makes Shiva's fight way, way easier by wasting his turns. They did a really good job with this figure as well. I really like how stark the color differences are here. The blue is very nice and dark. The gold, of course, is very shiny and metallic, and you have this nice colorations of the jewelry, the red beads, that kind of poke out and really help this figure pop out. It's kind of unlike, I would say, Varna, who is more of like a dark, like a more muted color scheme, doesn't have very many things popping out. Ganesha here, all of his accessories really help the figure stand out under light. Very, very cool looking. All right, Cuchulainn, using his older design, since I'm very curious that, like, Nocturne was already out at this point, so I'm surprised that they didn't go with the more modern take on him that we sort of see, where he has the proper headdress and an actual spear. But I really like this version of Cuchulainn a lot as well, with the semi-translucent green plastic spear here that he has. And I was surprised when I got him that I was like, whoa, he's really tall. Like, out of all the figures, he's definitely the biggest, and I don't know why they did that. But, you know, I think Cuchulainn fans can agree that this figure is very, very worth it, I think. I just really like how regal he looks, and like there's some sort of wind blowing. It's like making his hair go all crazy and his cape float up behind him. Very, very cool. Here we have Lilim. She's definitely on the smaller end of things, and she only really came with 2 pieces, her main body and her wings. She was also the only figure that I had loose that came with instructions, because her wings are made of a very light material. You can sort of see how thin they are. They wanted you to be very careful when attaching them underneath her hair here, because it wasn't super easy, so they made a little infographic to show you how to do it properly. And yeah, no, she's absolutely stunning. Really captures that seductive vibe that you would expect from a child of Lilith. You know, very nice figure. And last but not least, we have Sandman. What? Hang on a minute. What the? That's it? That's all it is? Like, the rest of these guys, they were $4, sure, but they had so much more going on. Literally, this guy is just a brick. Like, what the? He's cool looking. He's got some really nice art and paint decals and yeah, like he looks good, but what the? You'd think there'd be a bit more. I mean, I definitely prefer this color scheme over his red and black, but what? Oh, but you know what? That's because he came with something else. You see, Sandman here, as you can tell by his gold nameplate, is that he was the special hidden figure of this wave, sort of like Yoshitsune was that you saw on Raphael's box that I showed you earlier. And because he was so small, he actually came with something else, and that would be this. Now you're probably taking a second here and being like, what? Really? That's what he came with? It's just a husk. Like, what could that be? Well, you see, the reason why Sandman came packaged with a big hunk of plastic that doesn't really make any sense is because it's actually Beelzebub's other half left in a separate pocket dimension that didn't make it along for the ride. But if you ended up getting both Sandman and Beelzebub's top half, you could combine Beelzebub into his full form. I don't know why they split him up like that. I feel like they didn't do that with some of the other figures, but maybe they did. It just seems kind of strange because I feel like fans of Beelzebub would really appreciate having the full figure, not just this whole coming out of a portal type of situation that they got going on here. I mean, it's really cool, and they did a really good job. I like the idea of Beelzebub sort of clawing his way out of a demon summoning portal. It's not really something that like you would expect to see in this sort of line of figures, but I don't know, I kind of preferred him in his full mature appearance rather than just coming out of the ground like this. Ah, much better. There's the Beelzebub we all know and love. I really like how everything just sort of comes together with this figure. He's not as big as Cuchulainn, which is kind of funny, but he's about the same size as I would, like, I guess the Heralds, if you kind of compare them. You can see here that, like, he's about the same size as Uriel if Uriel didn't have his little pedestal here. So if there was one thing I could change with this figure, I'd kind of make him a little bit bigger since he is technically tied into the special hidden figure with Sandman. But yeah, no, this is like a one-to-one with the art and the way the arms are positioned and the skull necklace and everything. It's just absolutely perfect. I really, really like the iridescent paint that they used on this. You can see like the blues and the purples just all look absolutely gorgeous in the light. And a really stark contrast with his nice big yellow head and orange eyes, and it's just so good. And that's it for all the Shin Megami Tensei 1 coin figure series figures that I own. Overall, I am very, very happy with how they did this. I was surprised for the price point that these things were originally selling for. The amount of detail and focus that they did on trying to copy Cosmic Conoco's artwork just means that like these are all very, very high quality figures. If you can manage to get your hands on them, a reasonable price, I would say, nowadays, considering what they've been going for on eBay and everything, is if you can shoot for around $30 to $40 for one of the figures that you really, really want, I would definitely go for it, because I feel like that's a reasonable price to justify, considering that how old these are and also the quality that goes into them anymore. And really, you're just... It's sort of, you should only go for that if you really want the figure and if there's nothing else available, because it's sort of funny how Uriel, when I ended up getting him probably for around 30. Raphael was probably around 30 to 40 when you consider shipping, and Gabriel in the back there was more than both of those combined. So yeah, it really depends on what figure you're shooting for and what's available. I think I saw the Jack Frost and Pyro Jack figure going for like what, $70 or something. It was kind of ridiculous. But yeah, let me know which ones you guys liked. If there were any figures in this series that you own yourselves that you also would like to recommend, or what figures you wish they included. And yeah, thanks for sticking around and watching the video, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed hearing me gush about all these guys as much as I enjoy owning them. Once again, guys, thank you so much for sticking around, and if you have any suggestions for what I should do on the channel or what you'd like to see, let me know. Bye.